For your entire life, you might have been waiting on God, waiting for a sign, waiting for a miracle, waiting for that door to swing wide open. You've been taught to pray with your head down and your hands folded, hoping that a divine intervention would suddenly change your circumstances. But what if I told you that you've been misunderstanding the entire message? What if God isn't a distant genie you summon for wishes, but the ultimate coach who has already given you the playbook, the strength, and the mandate to win the game yourself? It's time to shatter that passive theology and realize that the power you're praying for has been inside you all along, waiting not on God, but on you to finally use it. You know, it's a very common and understandable error to conceive of God as a kind of cosmic administrator to whom you submit requests. You pray for a specific job, for a specific relationship to work out, for a specific financial windfall. And when that specific thing doesn't materialize, the conclusion so many people draw is that their prayer wasn't answered, that God wasn't listening, or worse, that they aren't worthy of being listened to. This is a fundamental category error. You've reduced the ultimate source of meaning and being to the level of a genie, a supernatural servant bound to grant your 3 wishes. But a genie, once his duty is done, disappears back into the lamp. Is that really the relationship you want with the divine? It's a transaction, not a transformation. The more profound and psychologically accurate interpretation is to see God in the role of the ultimate coach. Think about what a great coach does. A coach doesn't run the plays for you. He doesn't get on the field and lift the weights for you. A coach provides a system, the playbook. That's the moral structure, the wisdom traditions, the ethical codes that have been handed down for millennia. These aren't arbitrary rules, they are the distilled wisdom of what works for a life well lived. Then the coach sees potential in you that you cannot yet see in yourself. He pushes you far beyond where you would push yourself, into a state of discomfort and struggle, because he knows that is the only way strength is built. Those difficult times you pray to be removed from, that's the conditioning drill. That's the coach making you run sprints long after you think you're going to vomit, because the 4th quarter is coming. Your prayer then shouldn't be get me out of this, but show me what I need to learn in this. Forge me in this fire. You have to trust the coach's program even when you can't see the entire season schedule. Your faith is demonstrated by how you execute the play that's been called, not by how loudly you complain from the bench. Stop waiting for a miracle to play the game and start understanding that your willing participation is the miracle. And this brings us to a crucial point, the profound misunderstanding of struggle. It's our natural, psychological tendency to perceive periods of lack, of confusion, of profound difficulty as a sign that something has gone wrong, that you've made a mistake, that God has turned his back, that you're being punished. We label these periods as failures or curses, and we pray desperately for them to end. We want to fast forward through the suffering to get to the blessing. But what if you have it precisely backwards? What if the suffering is not the obstacle to your purpose, but the very means of its attainment? Consider the archetype of the hero. No story worth telling begins with the hero in comfort. The call to adventure is always a disruption. The journey through the wilderness, that's where the character is forged. It's in the unknown, in the state of being lost and challenged, that you are forced to develop resources you didn't know you possessed. You develop courage because you are afraid. You develop patience because you are forced to wait. You develop faith because you cannot see the way forward. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. A sculptor doesn't hate the marble he is shaping. The pressure and the chisel are not acts of aggression against the stone. They are the necessary forces that reveal the statue within. Your period of isolation, your financial struggle, your relational breakdown, this is the marble. You're being shaped. To pray for the pressure to stop is to pray to remain a block of stone, because a smooth, untouched piece of rock has never become a masterpiece. The wilderness is not your prison, it is your workshop. It is where you earn the wisdom to handle the future you're praying for. So stop seeing your struggle as a sign of abandonment and start recognizing it as your unique and necessary curriculum. Now, if you truly begin to internalize this idea that God is a coach and your struggles are your training ground, it forces a terrifying and uncomfortable question. What then is the actual measure of your faith? It's a question that should shake you to your core, because you can say you believe, you can shout it in a church, you can post verses on social media, but if your life doesn't change, if your actions don't align, then that so-called faith is a dead thing. It's a loud, performative, empty shell. And this is perhaps the most dangerous misunderstanding of all, the belief that conviction is something you feel rather than something you enact. True faith is not a theory, it is a praxis. It is a mode of being in the world. If you genuinely have faith that you are capable of achieving a goal, that you have a God-given capacity to overcome, then that faith will manifest as a specific kind of behavior. It will look like preparation. It will look like relentless study when no one is watching. It will look like sacrificing trivial pleasures for a substantive goal. It will look like getting up an hour earlier to work on your craft. Your faith isn't the prayer for the harvest. Your faith is the calloused hand from gripping the plow. Your belief isn't the hope for a better future. It's the sweat you pour into building it today. This is the ultimate integration of spirit and matter. Your body becomes the instrument through which your spiritual convictions are made real. To do otherwise is to live a contradiction. It's to claim you trust the architect's blueprint while you refuse to lay a single brick. That's not faith, it's fantasy. And the world will quickly show you the difference between the two. So ask yourself this brutally honest question: does your life, in its minute-by-minute choices, look like the life of someone who actually believes what they claim to believe? Your actions are your truest creed. This drive to act, to build, to manifest your faith, it inevitably raises the question of purpose. And here we arrive at another profound and widespread misunderstanding. We often conceptualize our purpose as a destination to be reach a job title, a level of income, a measure of fame. We ask God to bless us with these things, and we perceive that status as the ultimate validation of a life well lived. But this is a catastrophic error because it mistakes the trophy for the triumph. It confuses having value with providing value. A truly meaningful purpose is not a possession you acquire, it is a responsibility you adopt. It is found in the problems you solve for others, in the burdens you help carry, in the value you add to your community. Your God-given gift, your talent, your insight, your capacity to endure it was not given to you for your exclusive benefit. It was entrusted to you. It is a tool for service. Think of it this way: if you are strong, your purpose is to lift the heavy things that others cannot. If you are perceptive, your purpose is to see the dangers others miss and guide them. If you have overcome a profound suffering, your purpose is to map the way out of that hell for someone else. The pursuit of status is a hollow game that leads to comparison, envy, and emptiness. But the pursuit of service, that puts you in alignment with the fundamental architecture of reality itself, where your greatest personal fulfillment becomes a byproduct of your contribution to the whole. Your success is not your ministry's funding, your success is your ministry. Stop asking what you can get and start solving what you can fix. The meaning that saves you from despair is found in the burden you voluntarily shoulder for another. This forward motion into purpose and service is so often paralyzed by a single agonizing question: but how can I know I'm doing the right thing? We stand at the crossroads of a major decision, a career change, a relationship, a financial risk, and we freeze. We demand a sign. We plead for a bolt from the blue, a voice from the heavens, an unmistakable billboard on the highway telling us precisely which way to turn. And in the absence of that theatrical certainty, we do nothing. We mistake this paralysis for piety, believing that our inaction is a form of respectful waiting. But it's not. It's a form of cowardice disguised as devotion. You have to understand that waiting for a sign is often a way to avoid responsibility for your own life. It's an attempt to offload the terrifying burden of choice onto the divine, so that if things go wrong, you have someone else to blame. But that's not how this works. God is not a micromanager. He endowed you with a nervous system, a capacity for reason, and a conscience. He gave you the biblical imperative to be a good steward. What does a good steward do? He doesn't let the field lie fallow while he waits for a written guarantee of a harvest. He assesses the soil, he studies the seasons, he plants the best seeds he has available to him, and he works. He makes the best decision he can with the information he has at hand. And that very act of moving forward, that step of faith into the unknown, that is often how the path is revealed. The door doesn't swing open for the person who stands still, hesitating 10 feet away. It opens for the one who has the courage to walk up to it and turn the handle. Stop demanding a detailed map before you take a single step. Your life is not a script to be followed. It is a work of art to be carved out of the unknown. The greatest sign you will ever receive is the deep, resonant sense of responsibility that calls you to move. And this brings us to the very heart of the matter, the core of the entire misunderstanding. We operate from a position of lack, of fundamental inadequacy. We approach the divine as a beggar might approach a king, hoping for a scrap of attention or a coin of mercy. We frame our entire spiritual life around the monumental effort of mustering enough belief in a distant, powerful, and often silent God. But what if you have the entire equation backwards? What if the most radical, life-altering truth is not about your belief in God, but about God's belief in you? The scriptures are not primarily a story of humanity's search for God. They are the story of God's relentless faith in humanity's potential. It is a record of him entrusting flawed, frightened, and fractious people with world-altering missions. He didn't ask Moses if he felt like a leader. He told him he was one. He didn't wait for David to become a king. He anointed him when he was just a boy covered in sheep's wool. The divine potential, the capacity for courage, for love, for creation, for redemption, is not something you must beseech from afar. It is a fundamental component of your being, a sacred imprint. The real struggle, then, is not to convince a reluctant God to help you. The struggle is to conquer the internal chaos, the doubt, the fear, and the resentment that prevents you from believing what he has already declared about your capacity and your worth. Your refusal to step into your full authority is not an act of humility. It is a rejection of a sacred gift. The ceiling on your life has never been God's faith in you. The ceiling is your stubborn, terrified refusal to have the same faith in yourself that he has had all along. The breakthrough you've been praying for is waiting on you to finally agree with what heaven has already said. So, let this be the day you abandon the fragile, transactional faith of a beggar and step into the empowered conviction of a partner. Stop waiting for a genie and start listening to your coach. Stop cursing your wilderness and start learning its lessons. Let your actions scream so loudly about your faith that your words become an afterthought. Understand that your purpose is not a title to be earned, but a service to be rendered. Stop pleading for a sign and start building with the tools in your hands. And finally, internalize the most profound truth of all. The creator of the universe has already placed his divine belief in you. The only thing left to do is to prove him right. Now go and act accordingly.